To actually get the job as a correspondent was it involved a whole scheme on my part, and the scheme was I realized that once you're in a company only sees you in one way, and it's very hard to get the company to change the way they see you. So if they see you as a fact checker, it's virtually impossible to convince them you'd be capable of being an on-air correspondent. Or if they see you as a producer, it's hard to let them see you as a correspondent. So, or if they see you as a correspondent, it's hard to get them to see you as an anchor. They're very kind of have tunnel vision on companies have tunnel vision on how they see you. So I realized I just had to make it virtually impossible for Channel One not to at least give me a shot as a correspondent. And I realized the only way I could do that is if I left. And if I left and I came up with something radical that would make it impossible for them not to at least look at a story I shot. So I thought, okay, I just have to go and I just have to go to really dangerous places and go to places that other people don't want to go to or too scared to go to. And I have to get some really compelling stories and show them to Channel One. And I have to charge them a very small amount of money, especially initially, to get them to look at it. And I can't ask them to let me do this. I can't ask them to send me because there's probably insurance liability issues, or it's easier for them just to say no. So I went to my boss at Channel One. I said, I'm quitting. I'm going to go to wars, and I'm going to take a camera, and I'm going to start shooting some stories. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sneak into Burma, and I'm going to hook up with some students fighting the Burmese government. And even though you don't necessarily really care so much about what's going on in Burma, it's not top of a lot of people's lists at the time of stories. I'm going to, it's going to be compelling because we're going to be focusing on young people, or I'm going to be focusing on young people. There was no we. I'm going to be focusing on young people. I'm going to tell the story of these kids in the jungles fighting this government, and I'm going to be on the front lines with them. And if you want, I'll show you this. I'll show you the story. And if you would like it, you can air it. And I'll, for $1,000, or whatever. And so they were like, sure, okay, yeah, sure, fine. We think what you're doing is ridiculous. You're not going to be a correspondent. All the bosses I had at Channel One were saying you'll never be a correspondent. This is not going to work. And nevertheless, I left and I snuck into Burma, hooked up some students fighting the Burmese government. I knew a guy who connected me with a contact who put me in contact with a rebel group, the Karen, who had been fighting the Burmese government for 40 years in the jungles. And there were a group of students who had risen up in 1988 in Rangoon and had been crushed. And they were college students and high school students, and they basically had to flee their homes and ended up in the jungles linking up with the Karen. They were called the ABSDF, the All Burma Student Democratic Front. And so I met a woman in Thailand who I made a fake press pass, and I had a camera, and I showed her the fake press pass, and I said I was with Channel One, and it's the show scene, and she didn't really, care too much. There's not a lot of people showing up asking to do stories on the ABSDF, so from the United States. So she put me in touch with a guy who then said, okay, be on this border town in Thailand at such and such a day and such a time, and we'll take you across. And I got smuggled in the back of a truck and then smuggled in canoes and ended up at the Karen camp called Manorplaw and shot a story over the course of a couple of days with these students, former students. And I put it together, and and as soon as I had shot the story, as soon as I was there, my first day there, I knew this is what I wanted to do. I knew this was it. And there's a saying my mom always would sort of say to me, which is a saying from Joseph Campbell, who was a professor at Sarah Lawrence, which is follow your bliss. And it always kind of annoyed me because I had no idea what my bliss was, and I sort of wanted something more specific, like some advice like plastics or something with a sense of direction. But I realized there that I'd sort of found my bliss, that there was something about the experience of being in a combat zone. It was just so real, and it was so all the fake stuff that everybody deals with here on a daily basis, and the phony smiles and the bullshit conversations, it all gets stripped away in war. And people look you in the eye and they shake your hand hard, and I liked it. I liked that environment. I didn't want to live in it. I wouldn't want war to come to where I live, but I understood this sense of loss. And I think when you lose a parent, or in my case, a parent and a sibling early on, I felt like I spoke the language of loss, and I understood the language of loss, and I was comfortable in an environment where life or death was very much in the air. And I was very interested in survival and why some people survive and other people don't. So that's how I became a correspondent. I shot a story in Burma, and Channel 1 aired it.